Good morning, everybody. It is 8:03 a.m. here in New York City. I'm Julie Roginski. Michelle Kinney will be here in a few minutes. Her computer is locked, so I don't even understand how that happens for 5 minutes, but she will be here super soon. Before we do that, though, I want to talk about what is going on with Trump's tariffs. Because if you remember in April, Trump announced Liberation Day. We were going to all get very rich from tariffs. Happy days were here again, and life was going to be great. Except that's not really how it worked out. And 10 months later, what we're seeing right now are just any number of people struggling, all of us struggling with inflation, which now is exactly where it was when Joe Biden left office, despite the fact that Trump promised to bring it down immediately. We are all, for those of us who are going holiday shopping, understanding that everything we're buying, nearly everything is more expensive. Grocery prices are through the roof. And Trump is calling the affordability crisis a hoax. And he's calling it a manufactured crisis that was manufactured by Democrats. Well, he's saying that, but on the other hand, his friends, the farmers, all of whom overwhelmingly voted for it, are going broke because China, thanks to these tariffs, is not buying their soybeans. People are not buying China and other countries are not buying their beef. They're going down to Australia for their beef or over to South America. So the farmers are really hurting. And so what Trump just did because of this is that he just announced a bailout for the farmers. And it's interesting because he's giving them, I believe, $12 billion in emergency relief for farmers, although the cost of soybeans alone exceeds that, not to mention beef, not to mention corn, not to mention all the other farm products that people just aren't buying from this country anymore. He called it a bridge payment, which means that he said that this is to tide them over until the Chinese start buying again, something that he said he brought up with Chinese President Xi Jinping in late October. However, the Chinese just released statistics showing that their trade surplus is booming, mainly because they're buying from other countries, not from us. So, I don't know what he extracted out of Xi Jinping, but it's absurd. He also told the farmers that the $12 billion that he's giving them, and I quote, "This money would not be possible without tariffs. The tariffs are taking in, hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're giving some up to the farmers because they've been mistreated by other countries for maybe the right reasons, maybe the wrong reasons." So, of course, he doesn't talk about the fact that the imposition of tariffs on China specifically has led to a Chinese boycott of American farm goods. And that this money is not made possible by tariffs. Their pain is made possible by tariffs. The reason they're going broke has been made possible by tariffs. And then, of course, he pivots back to his crazy rant against Joe Biden because everything's Biden's fault. And he goes, they hated the farmers. I love the farmers. And then he tells them that whenever he talks to Xi Jinping in China, the first thing he brings up is soybeans. And then Scott Bessent told the soybean producers that soybean purchases are the first thing that he talks about with Xi Jinping, even before he talks about geopolitical issues. I mean, it's absurd. And what's even crazier and stupider, and this is the part where all of us should be laughing because, as you know, their favorite thing has been for years, I mean, even before Trump, has been for years to call anybody who disagrees with them a communist, a socialist, a crypto Marxist. I mean, how many times have we all had those things thrown at us? Well, now he is doing something that's kind of communist-ic. He is telling John Deere and Caterpillar, which manufacture farm products, that they need to, he's going to give them help. Also, he's going to do a little bailout for them. He's going to eliminate environmental requirements for their machinery, which he said, and I quote, made them so complicated you can't fix them. But in return for getting rid of those environmental requirements, he would demand that the price of the equipment has to be lowered. So what does that sound like to you when the state is demanding that private industry charge something for its products. It's price controls. Well, as somebody who lived in a communist country for a little bit, that sounds vaguely familiar. And I don't recall Joe Biden ever insisting on price controls in exchange for getting rid of environmental regulation. So you have a guy who has caused the farm crisis. You have a guy that has caused a crisis in manufacturing. Manufacturing jobs are way down since he took office. And yet, interestingly, he is demanding price controls and he's giving money to farmers to subsidize their production of their product. That, my friends, is socialism in a nutshell. So the next time somebody says to you that you're a communist, you're a socialist for being a Democrat or being a progressive or being a liberal, I don't know what that means, but that's nothing that any Democrat I know has ever done. And to the farmers who voted for Donald Trump, knowing that this was going to happen, because unlike the first time, he already did a bailout the last time after he screwed them the first administration, and then they came back and they voted for him again. And while I don't necessarily want to mock their pain, which I don't, while I don't necessarily want to, and I don't underscore the fact that they are losing jobs, my friends, FAFO. You fucked around and now you're finding out. And the reason I have a little bit less sympathy for them than I used to is because they've been through this before and they're doing it again. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. You guys didn't want transgender women in your bathrooms, and now you're losing your farms. And I ask you, when was the last time a transgender person walked into your bathroom that you noticed? That's what this was all about. He ginned them up on social issues that they never had any contact with, for the most part, I would venture to say. They voted for him knowing what he was going to do because he had done it before. And he did it again. It's just insane. It's just insane. It's, you look at something like this and you think, how did the majority of this country put this absolute effing moron in charge? And it's not just the tariffs. It's not just what he's doing with China with the tariffs. I don't know how many people here on Friday, probably not many, except for me because I'm a nerd, read the national security strategy that the White House released. And I want people to really listen to me on this because this is an incredibly dangerous moment in our time, and the media has not really been picking up on it as much as they should. On Friday, the White House released a national security strategy. It is something that an administration typically does once in an administration. It's basically their doctrine, right, on foreign policy. Well, Trump just released his. And over on Substack, I'm actually doing a whole series on it because it merits more than one column. I have one coming out today that's literally like over 2,000 words just on this one element. But what it effectively does, and this is relevant to the tariffs, is he is releasing a philosophy of his worldview. And that worldview is a return to what's known as the Monroe Doctrine. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the Monroe Doctrine, but what it effectively said back in the day, and that's back in the early 19th century, that's when I say back in the day, so 200 years ago, more, that the Western Hemisphere is ours, and we don't want anybody else in it. And it was basically a response then to the fact that we don't want the Europeans coming and taking over the Western Hemisphere and making us endangered. Well, the Europeans are obviously not doing that anymore. But about 100 years ago, more, in 1904, President Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, had a Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine that effectively said it is our Western Hemisphere and we will do whatever we want in it to those countries if we so choose. We're the United States. We're going to Bigfoot the Western Hemisphere any way we want. That was around for a couple of decades, and then Franklin Roosevelt came to office and said, we're going to be good neighbors. We're not going to do this anymore. Well, Donald Trump has now returned. I think Michelle is here. Hey, Michelle, can we bring you in? Franklin Roosevelt has now, hey, hello.
Hi, what a nightmare. Technology is our friend and our foe. So I apologize. Keep going.
Anyway, let me just finish this up quickly and then we'll move on to other fun stuff because Michelle has produced some pretty funny content. Anyway, what's going on right now is that Trump released this NSS, this National Security Strategy, and it basically says the following. We are in charge of the Western Hemisphere. We're going to do whatever we want. We're going to focus just in the Western Hemisphere. That is where our focus is going to be. And that is effectively, that is our sphere of influence. Okay, that is dangerous for so many different reasons, not the least of which is, of course, we're now doing in Venezuela what this says, which is, hey, we're going to go to Venezuela and bomb the shit out of it illegally because we can, because this is our Western Hemisphere and it belongs to us. Well, if we behave that way and we expect the rest of the world to accept that, what do you think Vladimir Putin is doing over in Russia? He's saying, great, you guys have your sphere of influence in Venezuela and South America and Central America and the Caribbean, Canada for that matter. Fantastic. Then I have my sphere of influence in Europe. And Xi Jinping over in China, who's not buying our soybeans right now, is saying, great, fantastic. If you guys have your sphere of influence in the Americas, great, go ahead. But my sphere of influence is Asia. And I'm going to do whatever I want. Now, this document does address something called the first chain islands, excuse me, that we're going to protect the first chain islands. And that includes Japan, and that includes the Philippines, and that includes Taiwan, and includes Indonesia. And so apparently, in addition to the fact that we are only focusing in the Western Hemisphere, we're also going to make sure that those are protected, I assume, from China. Well, how do you do that by at the same time saying you guys can't meddle in our hemisphere, but we're going to meddle in yours because we're a great power and we're going to do whatever we want to Bigfoot other countries? It also leaves Europe completely isolated on its own, exposed to Russian aggression. It basically says you can go ahead and do whatever you want in Ukraine, the same way we're going to go ahead and do whatever we want in, I don't know, pick your country, Mexico, Canada, Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, anywhere in this hemisphere. Go ahead, take Ukraine. We don't care. And by the way, it also says that NATO should stop expanding. And it also insults the Europeans by saying they're facing civilizational decline. And it also says that the moderate governments in Europe right now do not represent their own people. And what represents its own people are the far right parties that our government, is now going to support. So if you look at Great Britain, for those people here who are British, you've got Nigel Farage, who's a wackadoodle Trumper, who is rising in Britain. Basically, our government is saying we're going to support Nigel Farage over Keir Starmer, the duly appointed prime minister elect. Well, he was appointed by his own party, but elected by his own party, but the prime minister of Great Britain. In France, Macron is about to be on his way out in a couple of years. We're going to support Jordan Bardella, a far right he's a Marine Le Pen guy, so a far right anti-immigration guy. All of this is terrifying. And of course, in Germany, we already know they supported the AFD, which is the far right group. I mean, you guys, we're talking about insane stuff. And I don't see this in the mainstream media. It's really important. I think we're going to talk about it some more on the show in the coming days. But it's really, really important. And I strongly recommend that you guys just go and read this thing for yourself. It's about 35 pages. It's insane. It's insane. It completely changes our role in the world. And it's crazy. It's crazy. And Michelle, it's terrifying. Anyway, it is 8:18. Michelle Kinney has joined us finally. Hello, Michelle.
Hi. Is this working? Yes.
Mhm.
What a morning. Just really quick, when you because you're trying to be safe with your computers and your technology, you have a password to get into your laptop. And no matter how many times I put in my password this morning, it wouldn't open. And then it locked my computer for 1 minute. So I'm sitting here 1 minute, 1 minute. And then I put it in again and it says, no, wrong again, 5 minutes. So I had to run into the other room and grab my other laptop and set that up. So I apologize for being late.
It's
I
okay.
blame Apple and all the Apple things. So it's you. Where is that national security report? Where can people go find it?
You know what's on the White House website? I'm gonna drop it in the chat. I
Yeah,
want people to read it. It's
yeah,
crazy, you guys. It's crazy.
yeah.
Crazy.
I
I
think
do
it's one
want
of those things that has to be seen to be believed, and it's not like this thing was leaked, right? It's not like
Oh, no, it's out there. It's
right.
out there.
Right, it's out there. They gave it to us. There's a lot of crazy shit going on the White House website, including also a list of media outlets that are deemed like the enemy. And there's a drop down menu of journalists, and you can actually file complaints against journalists saying things that you don't agree with, which is absolutely insane. But I think that we want to talk about, speaking of journalists, if you can call him that.
Oh my
Um,
god.
I
This
think
really
we
pissed
want,
me off.
yeah. We know what we're talking, right? We're going to talk about this Piers Morgan interview. If you have not heard about this yet, um, Piers Morgan already has a bit of a Jerry Springer esque type panel show. If you can't find a better way to put that, I guess it's awful. It's usually people on opposite sides of the spectrum, but usually the people that they platform for the most part on the left are like normal people that show up with facts. But then the people that he brings on the right are usually either provocateurs or part of the right wing media, MAGA media ecosystem, people like who are being paid by Russians or something else like that. So he thought that it would be a good idea to platform Nick Fuentes. Now, if you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, he is a Holocaust denier. He is a white nationalist. He is an incel, which means he's involuntarily celibate. He hates women, doesn't think women should be voting.
He loves
But he's
Hitler.
all
He loves Hitler.
and loves Hitler. And
That's what
there's a clip.
publicly loves Hitler.
Yeah, there's a clip about this. Now, also, he had dinner at the White House, or sorry, not the White House, at Mar-a-Lago with Kanye West and Donald Trump. Now, if you remember, Julie, I'm sure you do, on election night, you were on NBC. And there was a former Trump, I think it was the deputy press secretary.
Hogan Goodley, yes, yes.
Yeah, deputy press secretary from Trump's first term, and was trying to call Zohran Mamdani a communist and a socialist and this and that. And Julie said, I don't want to hear about this because your people have dinner with Nick Fuentes. And he was like, no, we don't. No, we don't. And Julie was like, yes, you do.
Donald
There
Trump
are,
had dinner with him at Mar-a-Lago at his
right,
house.
at his house. So Piers Morgan, now I'm trying to load all this stuff in here. Piers Morgan had Nick Fuentes on his show, gave him a whole lot of time. Now, this is where I get angry because we talk about this a lot, right? We don't want these people to be platformed, right? We don't want them to have a microphone. We don't want to legitimize them, especially in mainstream media, unless they're going to be questioned in a way that sheds light on their extremism, right? And calls it out. Piers Morgan kind of does that. a little bit. And so that's where I'm just kind of like, is it a good thing that people are seeing how crazy and awful he is, or is it a bad thing that people are seeing how crazy and awful he is?
So,
Um, yeah, go
can I get
ahead.
more sense on this? So, I
Yeah.
used to go on Piers Morgan's show, and
Mhm.
they called me all the time to invite me on their show. And luckily, they film at a time when I just can't do it anymore.
Too
But
bad.
too bad, right?
Too bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
no.
but but I will say his whole business model is to have
Mhm.
people, normal people. Like, it's not like
Yeah.
he's finding some crazy extremist person on the left who's like, I want to, nationalize everything and
Right. I mean, once in a while, you'll get somebody who's, like, a little bit more of a jerk, but, like, for the
yeah,
most part, they're
but no,
normal people.
for the most part, it's people like me, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll pair people like me up with Nick Fuentes or people like Nick Fuentes. And what
Right.
it does is it
Tim
effectively,
Pool, Benny Johnson,
Benny Johnson, yep, Dave Rubin, I've been on with him on that show a lot.
Ugh.
And
Yeah.
he, by the way, took Russian money. Congratulations. Yeah,
Hello. Yeah.
rocket
Tim
scientist.
Pool also was taking
Oh
$400,000
yeah, and Benny
a
Johnson.
month,
All of them. All
a
of them.
month.
All of them. Who they all pretended they
And they're
didn't know.
like, "Oh, what? I didn't know
Well,
this was
yeah. I
people
mean, if somebody was
Russian."
paying me $400,000 a month, you could bet your ass I'd know where it was coming from.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so they have me on these shows, and it's always like, again, it's the whole like, this person says the earth is flat and this person says the earth is round. Let's have a fair
Right.
and balanced debate. And my attitude is no. No, you
Mhm.
don't get to do that.
Right.
Don't get to do that. Because it's like putting two rabid animals in a, not even rabid, it's like putting one rabid animal in a pen with a non-rabid animal and be like, go at it, go at it, go at it, go at it. And that's his entire business model. And I appreciate that he's gotten very wealthy off that business model. And I
Mhm.
appreciate that a lot of people think it's fun to watch the same way they think it's fun to watch Abby Phillip show. But
It's
it's
very Jerry Springer. It's
very, very,
part of this rage bait.
I won't do it anymore. I will not do
Right.
it anymore.
Just really quick on that, there was once a time, and I feel like, who was it? It was one of the gals from Broad City. I can't remember her name at the moment. She was talking about this on her Instagram, and she was saying, once upon a time, we could go on Instagram and the feed was chronological, right?
Mhm.
You could see what was happening in real time with your friends or the people or the brands that you follow. Now, they feed you stuff in your feed that is all part of the algorithm. And they want stuff that you are going to click on and you are going to react to and you are going to engage with that is going to enrage you for the most part. And it's all part of this rage bait um, ecosystem in the media, social media, streaming media. Um, and that's what I think about when I see Piers Morgan. And I watch, I mean, I don't watch, but I see the clips, and if there's some sort of FDNY thing happening outside my window. So I apologize. But it's rage bait because you can't help but watch something like that and feel infuriated. And Piers Morgan, I don't know if I would say he was like a legitimate person, like had a legitimate show on like a legitimate network, however yes, it was Alana Glazer. Yes, it was her. Um, um, it, but now I don't, first of all, I always look at Piers Morgan as being someone who doesn't particularly like women very much. The way that he talks to them, the way that he treats them and dismisses them. Um, it's very coded, and so for him to be questioning Nick Fuentes on some of these things is kind of like, okay. But the first thing that I do want to show, so there's a whole bunch of clips here, and I do think it's important that we watch these, and people are going to go, I can't watch these, I get these, are upsetting. It's important we watch this because when Charlie Kirk died, when Charlie Kirk was killed, there's a vacuum to fill, right? And all of these younger sort of media influencer people on the right are trying to figure out who's going to be the heir to that audience. Now, Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk they were already butting heads. They did not like each other. One of the big things was about Israel. That was one of the biggest disagreements, if you can call it a disagreement. But Nick Fuentes created an army of little trolls online, and he calls them groypers. And the groypers would show up at Charlie Kirk's TPUSA events, and they would get kicked out because they'd go and like start a ruckus and like and they would fight. And Nick Fuentes would say things, Jesus. Sorry. And Nick Fuentes would tell him often on his show, he would say, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for your audience, like all the groypers. And this happened just in the months and weeks that led up to his assassination, by the way. So, and then there's the Benny Johnson wing, who also thinks that he's part of this like trad wing. Like all he talks about are his kids and his wife and his traditional family and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a whole story about him in the last couple of days that has come out. I don't know if you know about that. The Bulwark touched on this yesterday. Well, there was rumors that he's gay.
Oh, wait a second. I'm shocked that the most anti-gay people turn out to be
right.
It's always the ones who protest the most.
Yes, and it was on Milo. Yiannopoulos, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
he's come out. He's crawled out of the woodwork, and he was on Tim. What?
I mean, I have a great Julie Gump Milo story that I could tell one day.
Oh my gosh, put a pin in that. We're gonna come back to that. So he was on Tim Pool's podcast, and they were talking about it. And Milo is kind of like this notorious liar, but he's not the only person who's kind of been telling these stories about Benny Johnson. So whatever, that's a whole other thing. But Nick Fuentes, the thing that scares me about him, and the fact that he was just platformed also by Tucker Carlson, who share a lot of similar points of view about women, about gay people, about Jews, about Black people. I mean, the list goes on. And one could even say that could be an ideological alliance with Marjorie Taylor Greene as well. And the fact that she's defecting from MAGA right now also matters. So I think that these people are seeing the writing on the wall, and they want to be the heirs to the MAGA movement, the far right MAGA movement, after Donald Trump exits the scene. And they're the most extreme. They're the most hateful. And they scare the shit out of me. And that is why we really have to watch this stuff. We have to know what's going on. But I'm going to start with like the funnier part of this. And then we can get into the other stuff. But there's also been rumors that Nick Fuentes is gay. But that's neither here nor there. But I'm just going to play this. I put this up on Instagram and YouTube and the other platforms. Here, you go watch this. Hold on.
Actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No.
Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
You're a virgin who can't drive.
It's true. It's true.
All right.
He's a virgin who can't drive.
All right. I have all the respect in the world for people who decide, for whatever reason, that they do not want to have sex. That's okay.
But whatever, yeah.
Nobody, each their own. Nobody's pushing.
This man once said on his show that it was gay to have sex with your wife. These people are not right.
Yeah, because in his mind, you should be having sex with a boy.
Well,
and not your wife.
Right.
He kind of conflated the gay thing with the wife thing. And that's okay. If he wants to, great. He probably, but what I don't understand is how these complete and utter misogynists, and I mean that in the truest sense of the word, this guy hates women. He
hates
women.
And Piers Morgan was really trying to and there's a whole bunch of that clip that I didn't include, but I have it here too, but he's like, do you think women have the right to vote? And he goes, no, absolutely not.
You have it, show it.
Well, let's see. I have to get down here. So there's so many. Let's see. There's ones about Jews. There's ones about Hitler. There's one about Charlie Kirk. Let's see. The reason. Sorry, I don't have it exactly right here. If you can just give me a second.
Well, anyway, we could pull it. But the point is that these people are ascendant in the Republican Party, and they're being platformed by Nick Fuentes, and it's going to be pretty soon that he will be sitting at Abby Phillips'
Oh,
table.
here it is. Here it is.
And it's, how long before they're platformed on CNN, and how long before they're platformed on other major shows. I'm sure the 60 Minutes will eventually be doing a show with Nick Fuentes.
Oh, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Here is this. Hold on, what am I doing?
Just to clear up one of the many theories about you, I've no idea what the answer is, and you haven't got to answer. But are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay.
No. But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the
Yeah.
boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow
fossil.
old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid.
And that's that.
But you know what I think is interesting? That Piers Morgan goes straight to the whole, oh, you've never had sex. Like, as though that's what women are good for.
Right.
Right? It's like, oh, you've never gotten laid. So, like, well, you don't know women, you've never gotten laid. How about, like, hey, tell us about your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about the women in your life. Like, do you have a mother? What do you think about her? Do you think she's annoying? Do you think that she should not vote? Do you have a sister? Do you have any female friends? Like, before we even get to the sex part, treat him like you would treat a 13-year-old who has not had sex. Right? Like, tell me about what it is about women specifically that makes you believe that they're not qualified to vote and makes you qualified to vote instead.
Right. What makes you so great? What makes you so great?
Does that also apply to, like, Black people and Latinos? Like, is it just white men who should have the vote? Are we going back to that?
Oh, 100%. That's
But
his.
we're already, as I started the show, Michelle, before you got on, like, we were talking about the Monroe Doctrine. That was in the early 19th century. Are we going back to voting patterns in the early 19th century too? So our foreign policy is going to be early 19th century. Our voting rights are going to be early 19th century.
Well, listen, when they say
people stop, but just the point is, sorry to interrupt. The whole point is, rather than making fun of him for never getting laid, which implies that women are only good to have sex with, talk to him. If you're going to platform him, if you're going to try to understand him, talk to him about what it is about women and his limited experience with them. Or maybe he hasn't had limited experience with them. Maybe he's got 20,000 female friends. Maybe he's got 5 sisters. I don't know. Maybe he's got a mother he's really close to. But talk to him about what it is that he has seen in women, short of having sex with them, because that's not really what's relevant here.
Yeah.
What it is about him that is upsetting to you, or about them that is upsetting to you, Nick Fuentes, if you must platform him. But instead, of course, he goes for the lowest common denominator because he knows it's going to be clips. Oh, you've never gotten laid. Oh, you're a virgin.
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, honestly, who cares? Who cares? How about this question, since we're uncensored? Hey, Nick Fuentes, do you masturbate? And if you do, who do you think about when you do that?
Can you imagine?
That's a question for Nick Fuentes.
Can you imagine?
That's the question for
You'd
Nick
be
Fuentes.
like, I don't think about anything.
No, if you're going to platform Nick Fuentes and you're going to make fun of him for being a virgin, the follow-up question is, do you masturbate? And who do you think about when you do? Is it a woman? Is it a man? Is it Adolf Hitler? Who, Nick Fuentes, do you think about?
Is it Donald Trump?
Is it Donald Trump? I mean, if you're going to go down this disgusting road with him, just go all the way. Just go all the way.
Well, and what I was thinking about too is do they want to bring us back to the early 19th century? Yes. I think that that's exactly the point. I think when they say make America great again, they're not saying 1950. They're not saying 1930. They're saying 1830 is what they're saying. Because, I mean, and we can do a whole nother thing about this sometime. We can grab Ken Burns or John Meacham or somebody like that to talk about this, because I think the argument can be made that the South won the war.
Oh.
I mean, they never were held accountable. I mean, Reconstruction was a disaster. I mean, there's all kinds of things that were a failure in the years and decades after the Civil War. And they just kind of, I mean, the fact that in the South, you can go all over the place and you see the stars and bars, and you can see monuments and statues and buildings that are all named after these people, and they're revered like heroes. And it's, oh, the South will rise again. And I'm like, and do what? Enslave people? Like, apparently. And this grievance, this hatred, and slavery being the original sin of this country, we have never faced it. Never. We fought a war over it. More people died in this war than any other war that Americans participated in. You had households torn apart. I mean, that sounds pretty familiar, right? We are living in a time now that is as divided as it was then, if not more, because of our access to information and social media. So in that light, I'm going to throw this up. This is, hopefully there won't be a lag on the audio here, but this is the Hitler portion of the interview.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool.
Do you regret saying that?
Saying a fact? No, that's absolutely true.
You think Hitler was very fucking cool?
Yes, I do.
One of them.
And I'm tired of pretending he's not.
Well,
to be honest,
this is the problem, you see. It's a bit like when you just say, I'm a racist. You're a racist who thinks Hitler's cool, but you're not anti-Semitic. If you're a Jewish person watching this, what are they thinking? I'll tell you what they're thinking, because I've got a friend of mine called Danny Finkelstein, who, when he heard I was interviewing you, he's a Times journalist in the UK, very eminent journalist here, and author, who wrote a book about his own family's experiences at the hands of Hitler and Stalin, because you also told Tucker Carlson that you admire Stalin. But let's just take what Danny said here.
Hi Piers, it's Danny Finkelstein here. As you're interviewing Nick Fuentes, you might try suggesting to him that he reads my book, Hitler, Stalin, Mum and Dad. It's called Two Roads Home in the United States. Since he says he's on Team Hitler, you might like to ask him about the fact that Hitler arrested my mum, tried to starve my mum to death, did starve my grandmother to death, sent my great aunt to the gas chamber, my great uncle, my cousin. My grandmother on my father's side ended up being one out of 7 children, the only one that survived the war. So you might ask him whether he wouldn't rather be on Team Mum rather than Team Hitler. And as for celebrating Stalin's birthday, well, Stalin took my father, sent him to a state collective farm, sent my grandmother and to a state collective farm, sent my grandfather to the Gulag. You might try asking him why he doesn't celebrate Dad's birthday rather than Stalin's. It may all be a big joke to him, but he complains that he was 18 when someone tried to cancel him. Well, Stalin and Hitler arrested my mum and my dad when they were 10 years old. So perhaps he might like to reconsider his joke.
See, that's the reality of your jokes, although I haven't ascertained yet whether you are joking when you say that Hitler was very fucking cool. Are you joking, or do you actually think he was very fucking cool? The most genocidal monster of the last 150 years?
Yeah, the thing is, my generation, we're just done with the pearl clutching. You know,
Yeah, you might
we
be,
make
but then your
edgy.
generation hasn't gone through what Danny Finkelstein's family went through. So
Yeah.
maybe the pearl clutching has a way to go for families whose family members
Oh my
were
gosh,
murdered.
yeah, we got all that. We, you know, me mom, like we're, you know, I don't even know who this person is. Why is this person talking to me? This old British guy is saying me mom got killed by Hitler
Because
and
he
me
doesn't
dad
find
got
it
killed
funny
by.
when you say Hitler's very fucking
I don't
cool.
care.
He finds
I don't
I know you
care.
don't care. That's fine. You don't have to care, but he does care.
Does that guy?
Okay.
My God.
So let me just say what just happened.
Yep.
Danny Finkelstein, whoever the hell he is, said his family got killed at the hands or starved or imprisoned at the hands of Hitler and Stalin. Fact. This all happened. Me too. My family also.
Yeah.
Nick Fuentes says he doesn't care. What we're doing here is equating two worldviews. One
Right.
is the Holocaust happened, Stalin's genocide of his own people happened, and on the other hand, the earth is flat.
Yeah.
And why don't we listen to Danny Finkelstein and his story and then ask Nick Fuentes to respond as though they're equals?
Yeah.
As though they're equals. One person says the Holocaust happened, the other person says, pearl clutching. Okay, both have merit. Is that what we're doing?
You know, there's an argument to be made that, you know, being born and growing up in the United States and having grandparents who also did, whether they crossed oceans to fight against the Nazis and against the Japanese in other parts of the world, we didn't have proximity to one of the worst atrocities in human history, and one of the, if not the worst war fought amongst us. We don't have proximity to that. Like, we can't walk to the corner and like know that something happened there. Like, it's not tangible for us. It's far away. And the people who live and grew up in Europe and had their families and, you know, directly affected by this have stories that are passed down not just orally but through their DNA. And so I feel like there's a certain amount of privilege that Americans have. I mean, I would think about my grandparents, right? I have pictures and stories of my grandparents living happy lives, outside of the war, living in the United States. Their houses weren't bombed. Like they weren't dragged out of their homes by the Nazis. So I wonder if there's a disconnect there. But at the same time, like you were saying, Julie, there is this rise of right-wing authoritarianism in Europe now too. And that's why people like Elon Musk, whose grandparents were Nazis in Canada and fled and went to South Africa because they saw in South Africa and apartheid, common values. And so, Elon Musk has been told, and like our generation, like the Gen Xers and millennials have been told, this is a part of history to be ashamed of. Now he's going to talk to these people. AF, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he went and talked to these.
AFD, yeah.
He went and talked to these people and said, we've been told our whole lives that we don't need to be ashamed of our past. We have to be ashamed, and you don't have to be. I'm telling you that you don't have to be ashamed of this anymore. And so there is this like rise in acceptance. And so you see somebody like Nick Fuentes kind of connecting with that, saying, yeah, I hear you, but I don't care. Why are we ashamed? Like, why do we care about this? And the shock of that is starting to wear off.
That's, you know what, Michelle, you just nailed it. The shock of that is starting to wear off. It is not shocking any longer to hear this. And once you start being shocked,
right,
you start analyzing, you start to think, well, maybe he's got a point. Who wants to feel bad about themselves? Who wants to feel bad about their history?
Right.
Who wants to hear stories about Kenny Finkelstein's parents or grandparents?
And the thing about that is white people in the United States feel that way too, because, you know, we are taught the history of racism and slavery in this country, right? And instead of just internalizing that, there is this, well, I'm not going to feel guilty about that. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And it's the same thing here, except many more generations removed, unless, you know, part
and
of
your
this.
platform, again, you know, I guess Piers Morgan feels good about himself because he got Kenny Finkelstein to record a message for him.
Right. He's like, oh, see, I'm showing the other side.
Yeah, but it's not showing the other side.
Right.
It's not showing the other side. It's saying, hey, here's a picture of Auschwitz when it was liberated. Here are the people and what they looked like.
Right.
Is this pearl clutching to you?
Right.
Because you're talking about Hitler. So what did Hitler do that was really cool? Like, that's a question for him. What about Hitler makes him cool?
Mm-hmm. And ironically is that Hitler was deeply influenced by the Jim Crow laws in the United States and our treatment of Black people in this country.
Yeah.
It's cyclical.
Yep.
All of it. And speaking of the racism, I'm just going to play this clip. Hold on, please. Let me go in here.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. You know, I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really, unless you want to say that's another of your jokes. But you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you really got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make emphatically
because
sure
my father's.
He's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to the everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody. The difference is you're attacking my father. You know, he could get fired from his job.
I'm not attacking your father.
You are.
No, I'm not. I don't know your father. And to be clear, I have no knowledge about him at all.
Well, then let's leave him out of it.
Well,
let's leave him out of it if you don't know him.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you've said publicly. That's not unfair.
Okay. Nick Point says his father is Mexican, American.
I mean, that makes sense. His last name doesn't, you know.
So I don't know why. I don't know what the whole deal with his father was, but
I don't know. There's something going there. But he was triggered like very quickly too.
But I think what's interesting about all this is these guys are not apologetic. They're not explaining themselves. Yes, Hitler's cool. Yes, I'm a racist. Yes, you know, whatever else he said.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not apologetic about their racism. They're not apologetic about their misogyny. They're not apologetic about any of it. They're not here to explain. I mean, that's the part that I think is fascinating about this interview is that I don't know what Piers thought he was getting at, but this guy's not here to explain. He's just here to say, yes, the earth is flat. Mm-hmm. And nobody's asking him, why do you think the earth is flat?
Right. Like what evidence? Like what
evidence do you have the earth is flat? They're not. They're just saying, oh, okay, well, you say that and that's not cool. I'm going to wag my finger at you. That's not making him look like an asshole. That's giving him a platform.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as somebody who is Jewish, as somebody whose family died at the hands of Adolf Hitler, as somebody whose family died at the hands of Joseph Stalin, right? Like, I would like to have a discussion with Nick Fuentes about that.
Yeah.
I really would.
Unimaginable. And that's the thing, is like unimaginable to
Yeah.
the average American. Unimaginable. Like, we don't have that same proximity to that kind of, authoritarianism, fascism. Like,
Oh,
there's nothing for us to hold on to, or to touch, or to
so
understand about this.
yeah, I mean, Michelle, look, and I've said this before, and we don't have to belabor it. I grew up in 1973. I was born in 1973 in Moscow, right? Which is only what 30 years, not even 30 years after World War II ended, which is
Right.
kind of weird to think about.
It's good nuts, because think about 30 years
Yeah,
away
think
from
about less
now. It
than 30
doesn't seem
years,
like that
right?
long
I
ago.
mean, it was
Right.
28 years after the war had ended, which is like
That's
it's
bananas to think about. Yeah.
bananas, right? Think about
Mhm.
28 years ago. And I remember very well in the 70s as a little girl seeing people missing limbs,
Mm.
seeing people just kind of missing eyes, and it was everywhere. And you
Yeah.
knew, like, I don't remember a time when I didn't know about World War II. It was so completely prevalent in everybody's life.
Right.
And, that part I think was just ingrained in me. And then
Mm.
knowing, like, my father, who's calling me right now, by the way, probably because I'm cursing. My father was born in a little hut somewhere near the Ural Mountains as they were fleeing east because the Nazis were coming to Moscow. And then my grandmother was a doctor, and she was not allowed to come back to Moscow by Stalin after World War II because they needed to send her to some village to be the doctor there. So I remember this village very well. It's where my father grew up. It had an outhouse
Oh my
that
God.
served 10 families. And I still remember the stench of that place. The outhouse was basically a hole in the ground. And this was in the 1970s. This is
Right.
how people lived.
Right.
That's because of Stalin, who was long dead by then. Not to mention all the people, who had the knock on the door, including my great grandfather and my grandmother. My grandfather would tell me these stories. I mean, it's a miracle that they survived.
Yeah.
And uh, and then before we even get to Hitler, this is what this guy supports.
Mhm.
This is what this guy supports.
Yep.
And I think if I were to tell him that story, I don't think he'd care, and I don't blame him. It's not his story to care about. I mean, the lack of empathy is obviously
Yeah. I mean, just
that's okay.
feel
I mean,
something.
that's fine. But what I would like to know, if we're going to platform him, which I don't believe we should,
Mhm.
is just tell me what is it about Hitler that makes him cool? Is it that he nationalized is it that he brought back manufacturing to the Ruhr
Yeah.
Valley?
Did you
No.
like his outfit? Like, what is it?
Like, what is it? What is it about him? Or is it that you
Mhm.
like that he killed 6 million Jews and
Well,
took over Europe?
the thing that's funny about that is because I think he does like that he killed 6 million Jews.
Yeah,
But at
but
the same time is out telling people, "No, I don't think that happened.
yeah.
I don't believe that it was that many." Like that, and just so people
Even if
know,
it was
that
even
is
if
what
it
Nick
was
Fuentes says.
even if it was 10% of 6 million Jews.
Right. Well,
Even if it was one,
yeah.
just because he was a Jew.
And that's the thing too about American Jews too, is like, I think about another group of people in this country who have tangible proximity to one of the worst atrocities to ever happen in the history of mankind, is the Holocaust. And they had grandparents who told
Sure.
them their stories, because again, people didn't survive the Holocaust. Like, survival was not the story of the Holocaust. Death was. If you survived, you were the exception to the rule.
And you lived with it your whole
And
life.
you lived with it for the rest of your life. And those stories of survival are passed down through generations. I mean, my friend Anna, who we've talked to, Anna Schumann, she works with 3GNY, which is the third generation of Holocaust survivors. And we're losing the last people who survived the Holocaust to tell those stories firsthand. And that is why so often history repeats itself every 100 years, because the last people to tell that story leave.
Mhm.
And for us, like the grandchildren of World War II veterans, we saw our grandfathers and their shipmates and their friends, singing God Bless America with the hats and the thing, but nobody talked about it. They didn't talk about what happened to them over there. Nobody. In fact, my grandfather, who who was in the Pacific and was a medic, never spoke about it. And my aunt took him to see Saving Private Ryan, and he had to walk out of the theater because he couldn't breathe. He was crying so hard. So, you know, but I mean, those stories still at large were not told to us as children. And, you know, not like you, Julie, where your dad was telling you everything,
Well,
you know?
my dad never lived through it. My grandfather, who I was
Right.
incredibly close to, fought on the Eastern Front.
Right.
And my grandfather, this is actually an interesting story. He, in the middle of the night, got up and walked about 100 yards to go pee in some field that they were sleeping in. The bomb, while he was doing that, a German bomber came over, dropped a bomb, and wiped out his whole unit.
Oh my gosh.
If he had not gone to pee, he would have been dead.
Oh my gosh.
And you think about that. I mean, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
here. My mother wouldn't be here. But, you know, those
Yeah.
are accidents of fate. But I know that story from my mother, who heard it from her mother, my grandfather.
Right. Right.
I asked my grandfather once about the war. I was very, very close to him. And
Mhm.
I said, and I was little and I was stupid and I was naive. And I said, did you ever kill anybody? And he
Mhm.
looked at me like I had 20 heads.
Yeah.
And his voice kind of lowered. And he said, of course.
Mm.
And what's apparent to me is he was in the infantry. He killed people at close range.
Yeah.
And
Which is psychologically
but my grandfather's
different.
just a wonderful man. Like
Yeah. But
he was
all that stuff goes out the window.
all that stuff goes out
That's
the
why
window.
when it pisses me off when I hear
Yeah.
Donald Trump saying, "Oh, we could have won that war easy." I'm like, "You think war is easy?
Oh,
Have you
And-
ever seen anything?"
no. And you have a
And
generation
that's
of
why, like,
young-
this shit pisses me off. Like, it's just yes, they're, you know, they're provocateurs in addition to being just terrible people, but, like, it's that. It's the fundamental values of being a good person, about caring about democracy, about being on the right side of history, and about being an American. That these people just fundamentally either don't understand or they do understand and they despise it.
Well, and think about all the people who are white men, right? Who are
Yeah.
exactly like Nick Fuentes thinks he is, although he's not because he's half
Yeah.
Mexican. Think of all those people, speaking of Saving Private Ryan, who crossed over on D-Day from
Oh my
Britain
God.
and fought against Hitler. Like, what'd you say to them, Nick Fuentes?
Right.
What'd you say to them? And, you know, if you've ever been to that beach in Normandy, I know you have, and I have as well, and people here, I'm sure in the chat have been as well. You stand on those cliffs looking down at especially the Pont du Hoc, where Marines scaled
Yep.
the Pont du Hoc, which is just like you think about the bravery and
Just being shot at.
the sacrifice being shot at. I mean, you stand there and you see it, and I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It takes your breath away. And then I don't know if you ever did this. Most people don't. I actually went to the German cemetery in Normandy as well.
I didn't go to the German cemetery, but the tour that we were on started with the German points of view, like from where they were, and then went to the other side.
Right,
But yeah, I mean, to humanize that side, I think is important.
You go to the German cemetery, which nobody ever goes to. I mean, you go to the American cemetery and it's mobbed, but you go to the German cemetery and it's empty.
Yeah.
In its own way, kind of beautiful and creepy. It's got all these like German crosses, you know, those big like Gothic crosses.
Yeah.
But you think about those people too, right? And some of them died for an ideology because they supported Hitler, like Nick Fuentes, and some of them died because they were just fed into the meat grinder.
Yeah.
But none of this is easy.
No.
This is what Fuentes is advocating, and to go back to what I said about the NSS, this is what Trump is advocating, because when you have spheres of influence, you are effectively saying the great powers of the world, which in his mind are Russia, China, and the United States, have their spheres of influence. And we're going to keep an eye on China because, you know, we want to protect Japan, we want to protect Taiwan. But Russia, go ahead. Go ahead. And when you have that kind of worldview, what does it lead to? We have a genocide going on in Ukraine right now. It is a mini Holocaust.
Yes.
And
to suggest that these people should just give up.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
They're fighting for their lives, for their families, for their lineage, for everything that they have ever known.
I know.
And I mean, it is unfathomable still to this day. It takes my breath away to think how the cruel and how these people have completely lost the plot. The Republicans have completely lost the plot. The fact that we have a president of the United States who is not only cozying up to Russia, but using Russian talking points to influence, if not to dictate, our foreign policy, but also, I mean, is a corporate communist. Like, it's just, all of this is just unfathomable. And it's you have to wonder sometimes. I'm like, I feel like I'm not living in the same country as so many other people here. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm going to just say this. Look, spheres of influence, which is what he's pushing.
Yeah.
The political theology of autocrats. And when America adopts them, it endorses a worldview that historically, repeatedly, and catastrophically has led to war. We are going to war, my friends. That's what's happening.
And Jacqueline, my sister-in-law, Lieutenant Colonel Urso, who comes on to talk to us, has been telling me that for years.
Yeah.
She's been telling me that for years. She was like, if you saw what I saw out here,
yep.
If you knew what I knew, and you're seeing she was doing the NATO amphibious exercises, in the gosh, where was it?
In the Baltic?
I guess that's where it was. Yeah, because they were in like the mountains and stuff. I caught myself because I didn't know. I didn't want to misspeak, but yeah, that and all the exercises going on in the Pacific. Those things are happening all the time, and that's why this Venezuela thing is crazy too, because people don't realize the alliances that Venezuela has with other parts of the world, and why that puts us in danger as well. And didn't you say, and to bring it back to this, what you were saying in the beginning about the foreign policy document that's on the White House website? What does it say about giving up Europe? I mean, essentially, that's kind of what we're saying, right?
Oh,
like we're not gonna stand by NATO or do anything like this,
he
right?
Hates Europe. He hates Europe. He basically
JD Vance says he hates Europe. Remember in the Signal Gate with Pete Hegseth and all them, JD Vance texts, "I hate Europe," all caps.
Yeah, it is governed in their mind by moderates who they don't support, and who they also claim that their own people want peace in Ukraine, and the governments don't want peace in Ukraine. You look at polling from Britain, from Germany, from Poland, from France, you have 70-something% supporting Ukraine. So he's full of shit.
Yeah.
But and supporting, the fact that Ukraine should not be giving up any of its territory. And he doesn't care. He just does not care.
Doesn't care. Does not care.
Yeah. And really, this document reads much more like it was written by J.D. Vance, which I'm sure it was. I'm sure
it probably was him and his little law school friend. And that's why I'm brought back to this on the 80th anniversary of D-Day. There's this incredible clip. Justin Trudeau leans over to this World War II D-Day veteran, one of the last that are still alive. And I believe he is still alive. I think he's like over 100 years old now, in his wheelchair. And he introduces President Zelensky to this veteran. And he gets down and shakes his hand. And the veteran was like, no. You are the hero. You are the hero. And the two of them like embraced. And it was just, you kind of can't believe it. And I think the man says something like, "You're the savior of Europe," or you're the savior of something like that. And it's just, you can't watch it without crying. I mean, like, I'm gonna cry just talking about it. It's incredible. Yeah. And I'm looking in the chat, and so many people are telling the stories of their grandparents not just here, in Canada, in Europe.
Yeah.
It is so important that we continue, and I wish I could just throw them all up on screen right now, but it's so important we continue to tell these stories because of people like Nick Fuentes, who are trying to tell us that those stories don't matter and that they were for nothing. And that's why we have to, keep telling the truth on this network, on this show, on our podcasts. I would love to maybe, I don't know, I'll think of some way to curate a lot of these stories that people have about their families, or quick anecdotes about, people and what they've sacrificed. I think it's just so important. And not just the sacrifice, but the hatred and the intolerance that led to violence and led to war, and strong men like Donald Trump, who accelerated all of it and threw gasoline on fires. It's a scary time, but Julie.
Well, before we go, I think there's a quick happy note about your favorite Republican, Elise Stefanik.
Oh my God.
Why don't we talk about that so we don't end on this?
Please. So guys, okay. Everybody knows I can't stand her. I do not like her at all. She's a terrible person. But so she basically, Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman from New York's 21st congressional district, has sold her soul. This former Bush alum sold her soul to MAGA, to Donald Trump, like Gollum, so that she could someday become president, and her proximity to power, because she saw a fork in the road and she says, I'm going to go to Donald Trump. How dumb. Because she thought he was going to choose her to be vice president. He did not. And then he nominated her to be the ambassador to the United Nations, pulled it last minute because Pete Hegseth is a moron who started a text thread about bombing another country, and accidentally added a journalist. And so one of the guys on that thread, had to fall on the sword. And so he's taken out of his role, but Donald Trump puts him as ambassador to the United Nations and said, sorry, Elise, next time. So Elise has to go, with her head down and, back to the 21st congressional district where she doesn't want to be. She never did. And so she's like, well, I can't run for any other statewide race, so I'm going to run for governor. I'm going to run for governor. I'm going to run a very hateful and horrible and angry campaign, because Donald Trump said that he will support me. Well, he's not going to do that, because he was asked about this yesterday, because one of Donald Trump's friends is going to run. This guy is like an old white guy.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Bruce Blakeman.
Blakeman.
He used to be
from
married
Nassau County.
He used to be married to Paul McCartney's current wife. I don't know if people know this.
I did not know that. That's something.
He's got Blakeman. His brother is Bruce. One of the Blakemans is running.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, regardless, he's a Long Island guy. He's from Nassau County, and he's a lot closer to Donald Trump's kind of guy, right? He's like city guy, almost like Long Island. He's New York. He's got money. He's a white guy. And so he's looking at Elise right now and probably looking at the polls. Now, in addition to this, like her whole MO and through line to her campaign is that Kathy Hochul's terrible and Zohran Mamdani is the mayor of New York City and he's a communist. But then Zohran Mamdani goes to the Oval Office and is like, no, I love him. He's wonderful. And then, of course, Elise Stefanik is asked about it. And she's like, well, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree on this. But then he's asked yesterday, your friend Blakeman is going to run for governor of New York. Who are you going to support? And Donald Trump says, I like Elise. I like Bruce. I like them both.
It's great. It's great.
It's so good. And yeah, the breaking news 40 minutes ago, Bruce Blakeman, a Republican ally of President Trump, announced that he would run for governor of New York.
Great.
She's not going to win this primary. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen because he's either going to not say anything or he's just going to go, yeah, Bruce. Yeah. And last minute, he'll throw his support in. And like, once again, once again, Elise Stefanik is going to be thrown to the wayside by Donald Trump, because what these people never understand and they never learn, that any amount of groveling or sycophancy or selling your soul to Ursula the Bad Witch, nothing is going to get you what you want. Nothing, because this man will eventually throw you into the sea.
I mean, he does this to people who humiliate themselves on his behalf. Like,
Yeah,
he never forgets. He never
doesn't have any
forgets.
respect for it. Yeah.
Yeah, he never forgets that they criticized him. He
Yep.
doesn't believe they're true believers. They think
Mhm.
that he has a very good sense of when
And
he
she
is
has
being-
a history of early on saying that Donald Trump is terrible and she hated him and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And he is he's just exploiting.
Mhm.
She's exploiting him, and he knows it because he knows she's not a true believer.
Yeah, Donald Trump is dumb in a lot of ways, but he's not. He has street smarts in that way. He's very good at reading people,
Yep.
and he sees right through her. She is like Harvard educated with a silver spoon in her mouth, and that's who she's been, and like super uppity and tightly wound. Probably, I mean, can you imagine? She can't be very much fun to hang out with. Not that Donald Trump is, but like she can't hang, and she's not a city person. And this guy is much closer to being a city person from
Oh, yeah.
Donald Trump from Queens than she ever will be. And he fits the casting. I mean, central casting, you look at who he wants to put in that role. It's not going to be Elise Stefanik, because he doesn't find her attractive, because that's another thing that is important to him. I'm telling you right now, he doesn't. Based
No, I
on
know.
the stuff that he's even said about his own daughter, Tiffany. Like,
No. Of course. And
Yeah.
and she's not his cup of tea. I mean, look,
Yeah.
we know how he treats women. Look what he's doing to Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's kind of great. I love that they're going at it, but
it's fantastic. You know,
fantastic.
you reap what you sow.
So
You reap what you sow.
Elise, womp womp.
Womp womp, too bad. I am still really going to enjoy this primary, though. It's going to be great.
All right. On that note, I forgot to tell my Julie Gump Milo story. I'll put it in that.
Well, we'll
No,
have to save that.
no. The next time one of these wackadoodles comes up, I will tell my
Well,
story.
we'll have to do something. I mean, it seems as though all the podcasters are doing a short segment on Benny Johnson, so maybe we can come back and talk about that. And because Milo is the one who kicked all this off in the last week, so yeah.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
I didn't even know Milo was.
Oh, yeah, I'll send you the thing. Sam Stein and Tim Miller did something about this, and Joe and I were watching last night, like dying laughing. It was really funny. So
okay. All right. On that note, we will see everybody when we're going to see everybody next. I know we'll see everybody tomorrow morning at 8, but do we have something coming up today also, Michelle? I feel like you might with Jacqueline. No? Yes?
No, that's tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow at noon. Mhm.
Yes. Okay. On that note, I will see everybody, and Michelle will too, tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. And we let Danza. We want Gump. All right. I will give you a Julie Gump story next time. Okay. All right, everybody. Great to see you. Bye.
Bye.